Welcome to the Transit Unplugged Live CEO Roundtable at the Vontis Booth 2025. I'm Paul Comfort, the host of Transit Unplugged, and we're excited to be today at the APTA TRANSform conference with a panel of 5 of America's leading transit CEOs. Let's give them all a round of applause. All right, bring it in from the sides if you'd like to. Let's go right down and talk. Actually, let me start with Ken McDonald, who is the APTA CEO of the Year 2025. And next to him, Ben Stupka, the Executive Director of the RTA in Detroit, and a graduate of Leadership APTA this year. Congratulations. All right, and Amanda Wanke, she's CEO of DART, Des Moines Transit. And then my good friend, Ben Limmer, who we were just up filming an episode of our TV show there in Connecticut. He's head of CT Transit. And Jessica Mefford-Miller, CEO of Valley Metro in Phoenix, where we filmed an episode last year. Thank you so much for being here. The goal of the show and the goal of this live panel is to elicit great responses from CEOs and executives about what they're working on, what it's like to live a day in their life, and also what they see the future as. So let's start with Jessica. So Jessica heads up the transit system. She came from Bi-State in St. Louis, where I got to know her some there. And now she is a CEO in Phoenix, Arizona. So give us a little about your agency. Tell us about the size and scope of your responsibilities. Let's start with you.
Thanks, Paul. Valley Metro is the regional public transportation authority for the Phoenix metropolitan region, and we operate bus, light rail, paratransit, demand responsive service, as well as streetcar across the vast Maricopa County metropolitan region. We have a number of operators across Valley Metro. The Valley Metro team itself, including our contract workforce, is about 2,000.
2,000 people. And you just recently opened a whole new line. Tell us about that.
That's right. We opened the South Central Light Rail Extension in June of this year. 5.5 miles, 8 stations connecting downtown Phoenix with South Central Phoenix. So we celebrated that with 5,000 of our friends and neighbors on a hot and sunny day in Phoenix in June.
5,000 people out for a transit event. That's saying something. That's exciting. All right, Ben Limmer's been a good friend of mine for a long time. He heads up the Connecticut Transit Authority, kind of similar to what Maryland is, a statewide agency. He heads up transit there. It's very unique responsibility. Tell us about what you've got going there, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on. We are one of the few states where the statewide organization actually operates the transit system. So we have about 700 buses. We have 420 rail cars. We have 3 commuter rail lines. Of course, bus routes all over the state. And we, similar to Jessica, use a lot of contracted operators. All in all, it's about 6,500 employees providing transit services throughout our state. And I'm very happy to be up here because I was born in Michigan, went to college in Iowa, and my first big transit job was in Phoenix. So I'm happy to be up here with these folks.
That's great. And in Connecticut, Ben, tell us about the place of, you may not have known this, but Connecticut is the birthplace of an American icon, the hamburger.
And you get nothing but the bread and the burgers.
That's right.
So don't ask for like jalapenos or something because you are not going to get it.
Literally, the hamburger was invented and first sold there in Connecticut. Anyway, just an interesting little fact. All right, Amanda, tell us about Des Moines, Iowa, and your transit agency there.
Good afternoon. I'm Amanda. And the Des Moines Area Regional Transit Authority is made up of 11 member governments, including a county and 10 cities. We have approximately 130 vehicles and about 300 employees operating fixed route microtransit and paratransit as well.
Ken, tell us about Long Beach Transit.
Okay, I'm Ken McDonald. I'm the president and CEO at Long Beach Transit, which is south of LA County, southern part of LA County. We have about 250 buses. We carry about 19 million people a year, so we're in a dense urban area. We have 4 water taxis that we also operate and paratransit. Important thing about us, we had paratransit operation in 1978, so long before paratransit was something in the industry, Long Beach Transit was providing that service for people with the necessity to get around on outside of our regular buses.
That's great, Ben. Thanks. Ben? All right, tell us about what's happening in Detroit and explain the structure. It's kind of similar to Chicago, but your RTA actually operates service.
Yeah, we're a pretty unique and young agency. So we're about 10 years old. The Regional Transit Authority of Southeast Michigan covers a 4-county region, so about 4 million people. There's 3 large transit providers that we work with. We're the funding agency and the regional planning agency, and we run regional programs for them. So if you take the full scope of the entire region, we're talking about 3 major agencies, 2 rail operations, about several dozen, over 50 small community operations, 600 buses, tons of 10,000 bus stops. It's a pretty big scope. We just recently started operating some express bus services under a contract. Those are our first major express bus services we've ever had in the region. And then just last year, about a year ago in October, we took over the streetcar operation. So my day-to-day is things at a very, very high level and things at a very, very close to the street level. So it can be very varied. Yeah.
All right, let's go to you, Ken. Tell us about the biggest transformation that your agency has had in the last couple years.
So I think our biggest, in 2016, we started switching over to 100% zero emission vehicles. That was a big transition for our agency. We're now going through halfway through this project. And our biggest challenge right now is, I tell folks that we found out that, is it the chicken or the egg? And I found out it is the chicken. You need to have the infrastructure before you can buy electric buses. So we are going through a lot of infrastructure upgrade at Long Beach Transit right now.
Is your goal to go all electric, or are you going to add hydrogen, or what's your game plan?
Half electric, half hydrogen is our plan. So we are
good, man.
Close to 75% completed on electric and about to begin hydrogen.
Excellent. Wow, that's good. I'm a big advocate of looking into hydrogen. I think that's a sustainable fuel for the future. That's great. Amanda, how about you? What's some of the biggest transformations you've had there?
Sure. So we are right in the middle of our biggest transformation in more than a decade, and we are reimagining our transit network. But then even going beyond that, we're looking at everything from our fare policy to an economic impact study to new partnerships and programs. But we're starting first with the network and focusing that service, because I think for all of us, we need to deliver the best possible service in the most important corridors. And the region's changed a lot, travel patterns have changed a lot, and it's time to change that service.
How big is Des Moines?
The greater Des Moines region is about 750,000. As a region, Des Moines itself is around 250.
Okay, very good. If you're just coming up, this is a live Transit Unplugged roundtable with 5 of America's #1 CEOs. Next up is my good buddy Ben Limmer from Connecticut. Ben, you've got so much going on up there. I was so impressed with your operations when I was there just last month. While we were there, Ben and I got the experience of being able to go to an REO Speedwagon 6 concert and interview the lead singers for our show. And so that was kind of fun. The lead singer of Styx, which was my band back in the 80s, you know? So that was pretty cool. But tell us about some new transformations you've got going on. You got so much happening.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you for coming up. We really did ride buses and trains when Paul came up. We didn't have fun the entire time, but we tried to. Transformations, I mean, similar to my partners up here, I'd say one of the biggest ones is we invested, notice during COVID and actually even before that our bus system was really the workhorse of our transit network. Everyone loves the rail system to take you to New York or wherever that might be throughout the state, but the bus system was really the workhorse. The governor recognized that, and so we invested about 15% more of our operating budget towards beefing up our bus system, and the returns on the ridership and the support we got from the public was really off the charts. So as we look forward, we too are going to do a reimagining a bus system. I think you're not cool in 2025 if you don't do one. So looking forward to that.
All right, so you've got so much going on, too. You just had a brand new line open up. Also, Ben's system just celebrated 50 years. That was great. We got to see that when we were there. All right, tell us what's happening there. In the last 2 years, what's the coolest thing, the biggest transformation?
So for us, the biggest transformation that we've implemented has been rail expansion. And in the last 3 years, we have opened 3 rail expansion projects, 2 light rail, 1 streetcar, all ahead of schedule, all under budget. So building out this system and continuing the economic development in the communities around us, I think, has been our biggest transformation so far. But we want to keep up with the cool kids, of course. And we remember that 70% of our customers every day are actually riding the bus portion of our system. So next month, we kick off the public engagement portion of our bus network redesign called Your Voice, Your Ride, where for the first time in 20 years, if you can believe that, we are reimagining mobility across the streets in the Phoenix metropolitan region.
I love the artwork you had installed in your stations. Talk about that for just a minute.
Yeah, we have a wonderful arts and transit program at Valley Metro. By board policy, 1% of our capital program budgets are devoted to art. Many of those art installations include artists from our local and regional communities. And on our South Central extension, we were very focused on evoking the culture and the history of those communities throughout our 8 stations. So it's a wonderful program. We have a program called ArtsLine. You can find us online where you can see beautiful photos and descriptions of those pieces of artwork, or better yet, come visit us, take a ride, enjoy some art, some culture, some great food, as Paul and I did when he visited.
Oh, yeah, man, that was good. Yeah, you got to see her episode. It's fun. All right, so we are at the Vauntis Beat today, and I want to introduce Simon Ferguson, who helps lead up the group here. Thank you so much for your sponsorship today. And Peter Axel, thank you. So Peter had a question for me he wanted me to ask you all today when we met this morning, and that was, how about you, Jessica? Tell us about a day in the life of Jessica Mefford-Miller as CEO of the transit agency. What did you do I know every day is different, but what's an average day for you like?
Yeah, so one of the things I love about this role is that every day is different, it is diverse. So each day includes communicating with at least some of my 19-member elected official board members, so that's a lot. Our 11 executive team members who are responsible for running the organization. And on any given day, I'm probably touching 6 or so different projects and programs that we're doing deep dives into. And then at some point in each day, I'm consulting our dashboard so I know where we stand with respect to our performance, our operations, as well as our customer sentiment data. And then ideally, I make it home at a good time to see my children and have a workout, which is the one thing I do for myself to de-stress from the intensity of those busy days.
Let me ask you a question on capital projects. So you have a lot of them. How do you hold your engineering department and all the A&E vendors that are there? How do you hold them accountable? Do you do like regular quarterly meetings where they have to come in and justify, or what do you do there?
Yeah, we have layers of meetings. It culminates actually in a quarterly meeting with the Federal Transit Administration, our state safety oversight, and our project management oversight. But these detailed meetings review all of our progress against schedule, against budget. We identify those critical path issues. And then within our teams, we have very well-defined touch points and escalation points. So if we're not solving something at that field supervisor or resident engineer level, we have a clear process for quickly escalating that so that we can resolve any issues with schedule, budget, contract challenge, so we can keep our projects moving. And that is one way we've been able to finish ahead of schedule and under budget.
Yeah, one of the things people don't understand about CEOs is the agencies they oversee. All of these are larger size agencies. They're almost like little mini mayors, is what I call it. You're like a mayor of a city. You've got so many operations spread out, all kinds of construction projects. You're interacting with the city council or the state legislature. Ben has to go up there and do that as a state agency. And you become almost like a politician. You have to lead from the front. You're making speeches and all like that. So the average day of a CEO oftentimes doesn't just happen during the working hours. I remember, and I'm sure you guys do the same, I remember laying in bed 11 o'clock at night like this, texting on my phone, and my wife's like, Paul, put your phone down. You need to go to sleep. I got to do this. Somebody needs a response to, right? Ben, let's send it down to you. What's a day in your life like, man, being an RTA where you kind of oversee 3 agencies, plus you have your own operation?
Yeah, so I wish I could say we were as organized and buttoned up as your operation. So we're still kind of a small operation. So the one thing I wanted to touch on, we do spend a lot of time with the state legislature and our partners. So particularly over the last couple of weeks, as a state budget is hopefully going to be passed by the end of September, so we can keep paying bills. So we just last week, I went up with the CEOs from the other major agencies and did a whole tour of the state capitol with all the key legislators. So that was a really important piece of advocacy that we're doing at a state level. So I do spend a lot of time doing that. I answered a text from my board chair at 5:30 on a Saturday morning, just like I'm sure all the rest of you guys do. And then for us, it's really learning how to also deal with things at that level, but then also the day-to-day operations of a streetcar system. So last week, right before I came here, we just buttoned up our triennial safety audit, which was so much fun. So that's the first time I've been through something like that. So it's kind of ping-ponging back and forth between things at the ground level and things at a very high level.
I got to tell you,
It's not boring. I'll tell you
Detroit
that.
is my new favorite American city, the one from this year. I'm not kidding, man. And shout out to your new leaders there, right?
Absolutely.
Tiffany Gunter, the new head of SMART,
That's
is
right.
phenomenal. Great there. And Robert Kramer there,
Yep.
running the city DDOT. You guys have an amazing team.
Yep.
Speaking of team, let me call out my new buddy Demetrius here from New York City. Let's give the CEO of New York City Transit a round of applause for being here today. Great to see you, Demetrius. Yeah, we just had him on the podcast to kick off Super September. Thanks for coming by, brother. Let me just ask you, how are things going in New York? Give me a quick shout out.
It's New York, baby. It's always great.
You got to listen to his podcast. How many jobs have you had, man, in the agency? 22 jobs. He's worked his way up in the agency to the president of New York City Transit. 40% of all the rides that happen in any given day in America on transit happen with that man. He had 40% of all the rides in America happen in New York City. So a great ambassador for our industry. Thank you. Yeah, let's give a round of applause, man. It's good. He's a superstar. All right, let's talk about leadership under pressure. Speaking of another superstar, CEO of the year. Come on, Ken. Share with us a moment when your leadership team this year had to pivot to meet a challenge. There's so many things that happen any given day. You can't plan your day. When's the last time your team had to pivot?
I think we do that every day.
Yeah.
You get up in the morning and you decide I'm going to go to work, and you pivot as soon as you hit the office. So I think as a CEO, I find I spend about 75% of my time outside of the organization. I used to think
wow.
I used to think it was 60, but I have a deputy who runs mostly of the inside. But I find I spend a lot of time with customers, with the board, with politicians. You get all these questions, and now in Long Beach with the Olympics and FIFA coming up, we have 11 events of the Olympics that would be held in Long Beach. So we have to think about that transportation. So planning for the Olympics and for FIFA is a big part of our daily life right now.
That's good. How about you, Amanda? Tell us about a time recently where you've had to pivot.
Yeah. Well, like you said, pivoting is a part every day. Adaptability is one of our core values as an organization, and it is. You have to adapt out on the street. You have to adapt to the politics. One of ours within the last year was when some of our member governments, we're made up of 11 member governments, had a disagreement that went quite public and gained a lot of attention. We pivoted and took that opportunity, and we always say take lemons and make them into lemonade. And so we took that opportunity to talk about the importance of working together regionally and to do some education on what state and federal government says about the importance of doing transit regionally and all that goes into running a transit agency, because we all make it look so easy. So sometimes taking that step back to help people understand how complicated it is and why we all need to be a part of it together is really important.
Ben, other than eating the best pizza in America that you and I had in New Haven, tell us about a time when you've had to pivot.
Well, the big secret about that is I'm actually from Detroit, and I think that pizza is much better. But please don't tell the people back home.
Yeah.
By
the way, all the ingredients are flown in from Italy at that place, man.
This is true.
Check out the episode we've got coming up where they show us how they make the pizza and all there. It's ranked number one. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, certainly, you do, definitely your day can change very quickly, as everyone has said. The one example that sticks out is, unfortunately, we're seeing a lot more of the extreme weather in the Northeast. So late last year, we had a significant rainfall, and we had a large washout on one of our rail lines, the Waterbury line. So we had to quickly work with our partners in New York to quickly mobilize and get the situation fixed. But it involved, dozens of local towns, the state legislature, obviously. And since we are a DOT, we had pretty quick access to some significant engineering and rebuild resources. That's just a small one that sticks out.
One of the other fun things we got to do in Connecticut last month was Ben runs ferries that take cars across this river. They have the oldest ferry in America. It's still operating from the 1600s there. This wasn't that one. This was the other one. But I got to sit in the driver's seat, the captain's seat, and drive the ferry over with cars on it. That was pretty fun. I know I weren't supposed to say that out loud, but it was a good time.
I would much rather Jessica drive the ferry But
Nobody fell overboard.
my car was on the ferry, and seeing you drive made me very nervous. But hey.
Rightfully so, brother. All right, Jessica, tell us about a time you've had to pivot. You've had so many interesting... She's got America's car-free city or town there in your area, too. Talk about that for a second. That's kind of fun, and then any pivoting.
Okay, so we have Cul-de-sac, which is a development located in Tempe. It is a car-free community. There is no parking within Cul-de-sac. When you lease an apartment in that development, you'll get a transit pass. You'll also get a membership with a discount to Lyft for rides, and you'll get an e-bicycle, which is super handy in the Phoenix summer. So yeah, check it out, Cul-de-sac. We pivot a lot. So transit is 24/7, 365. So in the interest of keeping it real, the last time our team pivoted is about the time my head hit the pillow last night. Things happen. We are a big system. We have 38.5 miles of street running light rail and 3 miles of street running streetcar. And last night we did have a situation where a motor vehicle impacted one of our trains in revenue service, and everybody walked away, thankfully. But I had teams on the ground who are working at this moment to re-rail that train and to support our revenue service. And so that means everyone steps into not only their role, but also stretch roles. So I'm up through the night getting information from my team, communicating with our board and elected officials. I have staff who are communicating with the public. We were able to single track for revenue operations in the 4 a.m. hour today. And now we'll work to recover that service and rebuild our overhead catenary system today, moving into tomorrow. So that takes everyone working together. We're working in shifts. I've got team who are flying back from Boston to Phoenix right now to support that effort. But this is just, doesn't happen every day, thankfully, but things happen and we have to work to respond. And I'd like to think the success of our team and our collaboration and teamwork are never more apparent than when things don't go as planned.
Let's talk about ridership. It's not the number one, most important, end-all, be-all, do-all, but it is something that we're measured by those who fund us. And so we have to know the room. And the room for people that are politicians and the funding agencies often ask us about ridership. So let's start with you, Jessica. What are you doing to rebuild ridership? Where are you at in ridership?
So our rail ridership, not surprisingly, because our rail system is so young and it is growing, so rail ridership has returned in Phoenix faster than rail ridership at a national scale. Our bus ridership has been more sluggish, though. And what we're doing about that is investing in network redesign. We've also doubled down on the fundamentals. We're improving on-time performance. We've improved connections between routes and our customer responsiveness. And now we'll redesign those routes to reflect where people are traveling more. We're also doing a lot of marketing and campaigning, messaging around safety and security in the system, where we've had a lot of big wins, and messaging about the availability of transit and some of the tools that we have to make buying your fare and planning your trip easier.
Who else wants to tackle that one? Anybody else want to say anything about ridership?
Yeah, so at DART in Des Moines, we're at almost 4 million rides a year. One of the biggest trends we're seeing with other agencies and their designs, and we are looking at, is really the hours of service and the span of service. You know, we used to be very commute-heavy, peak-oriented service, and now spreading that service out through the days, through the nights, through the weekends is really important, especially as we look at getting people to retail and service jobs. And that change in providing the service when people need it and meeting those changes is critical.
Anybody else? Ben?
Yes, and to everything that we just said, I'd say the two other things that we're seeing in Metro Detroit, SMART, which is a suburban bus system, has had a lot of success with a flexible, on-demand type zone service, which I'm sure other folks have experimented with. We've seen a lot of ridership gains in that service. And then we, about 3 years ago, put out our first full express bus line connecting Ann Arbor to downtown Detroit. It's just a simple 16 round trips a day, very simple service. In 3 years, I've not seen anything less than a 15% ridership increase every single month, which just goes to show if you put just basic, good, solid service where people are going to use it, even in the Motor City, people will absolutely use it. I keep waiting every month I get my report. I'm like, this is the month, it's going to be flat. And it keeps going up and up and up. Something we're going to probably have to deal with when I get back.
Oh, yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, so the city of Windsor actually had what we called the tunnel bus that would deliver workers over to Detroit, mostly nurses and hospital workers. And that service was just eliminated about a couple of weeks ago. There were some Canadian political reasons for that, funding reasons. There's other reasons that I think we all understand in terms of relationships with Canada. So we're going to be having a conversation on the Detroit side of that equation to see, is there something we can solve from a regional transit perspective.
And talk about the new bridge you got coming in between Canada and America.
Gordie Howe Bridge should be open next year, so that'll have a bike ped path. That project's been under construction and under planning for as long as I've been in planning, which is, got 20 or 30 years. I actually started as an environmental advocate on the other side of that bridge. I'll just leave it at that.
And now you're building it.
And now I'm excited it's being built. But yeah, so next year that's gonna open. And so again, having that connection, that transit connection, figuring out how we can do that with our partners in Windsor, because they're essentially a suburb of Detroit, and our hospital systems rely on those workers. So we're gonna have to when I get back, we'll have to figure out how we're gonna rebuild that relationship and that service.
Ken, I wanted to ask you about culture. You've done a great job there building culture and retaining staff and attracting. Tell us how you've done it.
I think the most important part is we have 5 strategic priorities that we rely on to plan it and design everything for the organization. One of those is serving the customers first. That whatever decision that you make in the organization, think of the customers first. So that customer first identity have gone through our organization. All our employees believe that that's where we begin, because that's the purpose that we are here for. We are here to serve our customers. So having a customer-centric environment has been really, really powerful to changing the culture in the organization.
Ben, how about you? Down here, this Ben. Yeah, go ahead, Ben Limmer.
So yeah, definitely focus on the customer. We like to say the customer experience is our North Star. But as far as building a culture internally is getting out, riding the system, engaging with customers directly, engaging with, bus drivers, mechanics directly, hear directly from them, and go to where they work. Go to their office and, most importantly, listen and follow up on what you are hearing from your frontline staff. They are the face of the service, and they absolutely need to be taken care of. It goes a long way.
All right, we're going to pivot now to AI, technology. What are we doing right now with the latest technologies? I recently did a podcast with Harry Wilson, who's the head of MV Transportation, a great guy. He actually was in Detroit helping lead the turnaround for General Motors for the federal government a few years ago. And he told me something that's resonated with me. He said, Paul, AI is going to be bigger than cell phones and the internet. That's the impact it's going to have on our world. Are any of you all seeing the impact in your agency? How are you using it? Is there any other new technologies? You want to start, Jessica?
Sure. So customer experience is our North Star and our strategic plan. And so we do a lot of interaction with our customers. We use traditional channels like surveys and follow-up focus groups. But to really keep our thumb on the pulse of our customers, we're using a tool made by AlphaView that allows us to upload all of our customer contact data. And then they also pull in social media data as well as information from the news media. And they have a tool called Ask Your Data, and it really is an AI query. So I can ask my data, what are customers saying today about security on the system, which is a question I ask of my data several times a week. These days, and I was actually just sharing this with Administrator Molinaro in a conversation earlier. Here's how I know how we're doing in security. It bears out in the monthly data and the stats, but to really see what the customers are saying, it'll give you kind of temperature information and then pull out illustrative comments that actual customers have made or the public have made in social media channels and tell you what they're saying. So that is a great, quick way to really keep your thumb on the pulse of the writing public.
Do you have anybody like monitoring social media at your agency or responding to Twitter, X, and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we do. Of course, we've got a communications team who is responding to that, and really mining that data and using AI helps us give more pointed responses, and it helps us be relevant. So we're talking about what the people are talking about.
That's interesting. Go ahead, Ben, or you want to, Amanda?
Yeah, so I think one thing that's really important is with AI is we are all operating pretty leanly. As a government-funded, taxpayer-funded, we really want to return that investment. And so AI is one of the biggest ways to help our staff be more efficient, get things done quicker. And that's one of the ways we're starting as an organization. Again, I know there's a lot of fear out there about how it might replace jobs, but for us, it can be a multiplier where we don't have the opportunity to hire more people, but we can make sure our people have tools to do their job faster and better.
And then as you're answering, Ken, are you doing autonomous vehicles? I'm interested in that, if you've got any ideas on that.
No on the autonomous vehicle, but I've been very fortunate that one of my board members own an AI company. So we meet once a month and talk about how we bring that into the organization. And that has been tremendous in helping me to bring AI into our organization, because I have an expert who is actually free that's helping me to bring it into the organization. And employees have embraced it. I've been very surprised of how fast employees embrace this new technology to help them to do a better job. One of the things I tell them is put on their computer, and this was given to me on a book I read, how can AI help with this? Put it on your computer, and every time you have a problem, ask, how can AI help me here?
Write it on a sticky note, huh?
Yep.
Old school for new school, yeah. All right, either the Bens want to say anything on that?
We are partnering with the city of Detroit to do some AV shuttles as well, but I'll let Ben talk about the other AI stuff.
All right, Ben, we'll bring it down to you. Ben Limmer from Connecticut.
Yeah, I was going to touch on the automated bus project we have going on.
Oh, yeah, Ben.
Yeah, so we have a BRT line called the CT Fast Track. It runs between New Britain and downtown Hartford. It's about 10 miles, been around about 10 years, also just had a birthday. Ridership-wise, been wildly successful, all of the TOD surrounding these stations. But it is formerly used to be a railroad corridor, so it's free from automobile traffic. So there's a ton of operational enhancements that you need to operate a successful BRT line. But it's also the perfect place to test autonomous buses. So we are working on a couple of pilot projects in that space. Super excited.
Got one more question left for everybody, but I want you to imagine a scenario like this. Imagine you wanted to go from one city to the next, and you were able to have a vehicle, autonomous vehicle, pick you up at your front door, take you to the high-speed rail station. The high-speed rail station would take you at 300 kilometers per hour and take you to the next city, and what would take you multiple hours, shorten it. When you got to the station, there was everything you needed there, coffee, your bags you brought with you, and then you're picked up by an autonomous vehicle and taken to the location you want to be at. Imagine the power of that seamless transportation experience that we don't quite have yet here in America. So with that as our background context, which I would love to see, maybe part of that could also be I want to be the first in America to ride the autonomous helicopter that lands on my front yard and takes me to the top of the FTA building. But so let's look at the future, Jessica. It may not be as fantastic as that, but in your mind, talk to us about what the future of public transportation looks like to you, say in 5 or 10 years in Phoenix.
So what we're working toward and what I see happening in Phoenix is that the bulk of the miles for our customers' trips are going to take place on our mass modes. Those are our big buses and our trains that are designed to carry large volumes of people over long or short distances. But what we're experimenting with in the Valley, where we have a lot of lower density communities that might be a reality on the beginning or end or both of a customer's trip, is demand responsive service. So right now we've got microtransit in place. We also did a pilot program in the city of Chandler. It got shortened a little bit because of the pandemic, but they used Waymo, and they were piloting that with senior citizens specifically to see the tolerance of that type of service with this demographic, which is pretty important if you're in the Sun Belt like I am, and they loved it. It was fantastic. So I can see smaller autonomous vehicles operating on the ends of trip, and then our high capacity vehicles operating and carrying most of the people for the long trips. And for those people who choose to live in our dense, vibrant communities across the Valley, maybe they're spending most of their time on those big buses or those trains, but we're getting people to the other places that might not be well served by a 40 or a 60-foot bus, and certainly doesn't have the density to support rail service.
That's beautiful. I love that vision. All right, Ben, what's your vision for 5 or 10 years for Connecticut?
I do think that Jessica's answer is absolutely spot on for the whole country. You know, we do a lot of customer satisfaction, customer surveys. So on top of everything Jessica outlined, it's just making the system more accessible, whether it's a tap and ride to get on. I mean, we got to be the last industry on earth that you couldn't just tap something to get on. Real-time information as far as when the next bus or train is coming. It's really all the little things to just modernize the system to make it easier and more comfortable to use.
So, Amanda, how about you? What's your vision?
Again, on top of what these folks said, one of the key words for us and within the industry needs to be sustainability. And that can mean a lot of things, but our riders and our employees and our communities need us to provide sustainable transit for the long term. And we have to work together at all levels, local, state, federal, and between our communities, which those relationships and that work can be really difficult. So I envision 10 years from now where some of those relationships are a lot smoother, and we're living in a world where I hope there is a lot more respect and listening for each other and helping each other, because that's the only way we as an industry in a region are going to succeed.
Excellent. APTA CEO of the Year. Come on, Ken.
For me, the most important part is easy access to our system. We have to make the system wayfinding and access to get into our system. A couple of months ago, I had never ridden Waymo, and I took a ride in there. Scared at first, do I get in a car that no one is driving? But when I got into the vehicle, and at the end of my trip, I thought, we have to look at how we use this in transit, because it is way ahead of where we are in terms of having a 40-foot bus. How do we extend our service with vehicles that are with no one operating it, but getting you to where you need to go? So to me, there's a vision about wayfinding, accessibility, and less cost to operate the vehicles.
Excellent. Love it. All right. Bring us home.
You put me at the end of an august panel after the CEO of the Year, so I can say ditto, ditto, ditto all the way down the line. I think, and we all touched on this, transit, and the reason I love this industry is an absolute reflection of our society and the very best of what we are in this nation and in our communities, whether it be innovation, partnership, customer focus, safety focus. So I just see nothing but good things in the road ahead. Bigger roles for transit, making land use decisions, economic decisions, being at that table when those decisions are made. I'm sure we've all been impacted by those decisions. So really, I just see a bigger and bigger role for transit. The technology and all those things will help us play that role. I think nothing but good things ahead.
Nothing but blue skies, huh?
That's right.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you all for being here today. Let's give our august panel a round of applause. As I mentioned, this will be on Transit Unplugged, the podcast. I also just want to make one final closing thought, kind of a point of personal privilege. I served as CEO of the MTA in Baltimore, and I can tell you the lives they lead. And it's a life of sacrifice for the good of the community. This is not an 8-to-5 job. This is a job that literally is 24/7. Part of the purpose why I started the Transit Unplugged podcast was I wanted to give CEOs a chance to tell their own story. Most of the time when they're in the media, they're responding real time to a crisis, like Jessica had to. And they don't get an opportunity to talk about all the good things that are going on because there is so much good happening in the industry. Let's all become transit evangelists in our own communities and speak to the 85% of voters who say they support public transportation even though they don't use it. And they support it because it provides access to jobs, number one. Number two, because it provides service to the elderly and people with disabilities. And number three, because it provides access to services for lower income people. And the 85% of Americans that don't ride transit still see value in their tax dollars coming to us for those reasons.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Transit Unplugged, the world's #1 transit executive podcast. I'm Julie Gates, executive producer of the podcast. Many thanks to the team that makes this show happen. Host and producer Paul Comfort, producer Chris O'Keefe, editor Patrick Emile, associate producer Cindy Raskin, and consultants Dan Meisner and Jonas Woost at Bumper. Transit Unplugged is being brought to you by Modaxo, passionate about moving the world's people. If you would enjoy behind-the-scenes insights and updates from the show, sign up for our weekly newsletter, which has links to can't-miss conversations with the biggest names in mobility. Head to transitunplugged.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Transit Unplugged.